If I can't keep my head held high enough, I'll just be love and watch the smiles come, bring my spirits up. There's some shit I like to fix, but I still know that I'm blessed.
Welcome back to my coverage of the Kristin Smart Trial. We're in the middle of week number 7, Wednesday, August 31st, 2022, in the Salinas Courthouse, Monterey County. Court was set to begin at 8:30 today after an early end on Tuesday when they stopped testimony at 3:20 p.m. Testimony today is going to be a bit technical at times. Much of the morning will be spent hearing from folks who searched Ruben's house back in March of 2021. One's an archaeologist named Philip Haynes. He'll testify today about the anomaly found under the deck at Ruben's house. We'll also hear from a dog handler, Karen Atkinson. She goes over her findings at Ruben's home in Arroyo Grande at 710 White Court. The dog handler, Karen, has worked since 2012 and has been involved with multiple search and rescues. She searched Ruben's home with her dog, Amiga. I love that name. Amiga is a lab, which I also love. Amiga was born in 2010 and is now retired, but was trained and certified in human remains detection at the time of the search. All the usual certification criteria was reviewed, just like the other previous handlers that we've heard from in testimony so far. Sanger tried to object repeatedly as Karen described how her dog responded to target odors. Amiga alerts by becoming very animated, slows her pace, rapid tail wagging, and sits down. Did you notice we're 100% all female search dogs so far in this trial? I am more impressed than ever about canine capabilities. I've learned so much. Karen and Amiga started at the Volkswagen in the driveway and then moved on to the lattice along the backyard. Once under the deck, Amiga traveled up the entire side, turned, and came back down. She slowed, circled, studied the ground with 2 or 3 head pops. She testified that Amiga reacted by the lattice. She said, "It was at that point in my assignment that I noted Amiga came in contact with some of her target odor." Atkinson said that there was a push lawnmower and gardening equipment and some junk under the deck where they were searching. During cross-examination, Sanger started with his usual discrediting of the handler for being a volunteer and all those things. And when Sanger questioned her and asked her if she was a volunteer, he added something new to the question. He said, "Are you a volunteer for the most part?" Good idea, covering his butt there. The answer was correct. I am paid by the Institute of Canine Forensics for construction-related searches. Misek actually cross-examined this witness today, which is to be expected. You notice he's had a lot more to say during this chunk of court time because it's directly related to Ruben and what he's accused of doing and the fact that the prosecution is saying Kristin was buried there. Okay, moving on. During cross-examination, Misek asked about the freshness of blood that they used to train the dogs. And Atkinson said that the blood is a few years old, but the training source is refreshed regularly. Misek also wanted to know if Amiga worked for FEMA and the FBI. She acknowledged that she did work cases for them. He also asked what the oldest blood was for training. In particular, the answer was a couple of years. And Misek closed with, "That's all I've got." I must say he seems more likable than Sanger. The jury also notices these things, I'm sure. Atkinson was excused from the stand at 10:30 a.m. Second on the stand this Wednesday, August 31st, was archaeologist Philip Haynes. He has 15 years' experience with working with archaeological sites and burial locations. He uses what's called a GPR, which stands for Ground Penetrating Radar. Side note, his machine must cost a ton because this one's considered a quote-unquote starter kit, and it starts around $26,000, which transmits radio waves into the ground and measures how long it takes for the waves to return. This helps find anomalies or voids. He used his GPR in the search of Ruben's house in March of 2021. It's a tool he's been using for 15 years as well. He and his business partner, Cindy Harrington, were on assignment to search Ruben's property. They established a 35-foot-long search area, including a covered porch and an avocado orchard. Haynes testified his GPR reported an anomaly or disturbance under the porch. He calls it porch, some call it deck. It's the same area. The prosecution asked if this suggested soil was dug out and refilled. The answer was, quote, "That is a possibility," end quote. It was a 6x4 hole and 3.5 feet deep. And I have to say, I always thought it was deeper than that. I feel like that's pretty shallow in my opinion. All right. We have jury questions. Okay, first jury question. How far underground can GPR study soil? Answer, 10 to 11 feet with his equipment depending on soil type. Different antennas see further, but you sacrifice resolution. Second jury question. Can GPR detect other fluids? Answer, if those fluids have contributed to a change in consistency of the soil. Third question. Does GPR need to be recalibrated? That's one of the more technical questions I've heard from the jury so far. It reminds me of the type of question someone with an engineering brain would ask. Answer, it's self-calibrating. In each new environment, it requires little maintenance. The heavy lifting is done by the software. Haynes explains he uses a 400 megahertz antenna, which allows him to search 0 to 8 feet underground. The prosecution asked Haynes if he's found human bodies with this unit. The answer was, quote, yes, quite a few. After going over experience, equipment, methods, etc., Prevel asked the court to deem Haynes an expert. Sanger objected, Misick joined in, and Judge O'Keefe ended up designating Haynes an expert. Haynes testified that on March 15th of 2021, he was setting up 11 grids to search Ruben's home. Grids 1, 3, 6, and 10 were suggested for excavation. Grid 1 showed signs of a clandestine burial by depth and by size. Continuing on with direct examination of Haynes, Prevel asked if the anomaly was consistent with other burials he'd seen. Answer, yes. Question, what's the size? 6 foot by 4 feet and 4 feet deep was the answer. Haynes said he marked the location in Grid 1 to be excavated the next day using orange chalk spray. Screens from the GPR are now used to show the court. Reviewing Picture 1, Grid 1 was located on the left side of the deck, 36 feet by 5 feet, showing in blue here. No disturbance is in the blue. At the top end, the colors change, green and yellow to orange to red, which shows heavy disturbance to a 6 foot by 4 foot area. Haynes is 6 feet tall, he said, and he was able to stand and operate his equipment as far as the top of the grid shown here. The next picture is a closer picture of the area, and the next slice is the next layer down. Here's 3 dimensionals of the anomaly at grid number 1. Now we're getting Sanger on the scene. So Sanger cross-examines Haynes, and some of the things they went over were Haynes established that he has a bachelor's degree in anthropology and he's a professional archaeologist, but he did agree he's not an academic archaeologist when Sanger pressed him on that. The data is approximate within 8 inches, according to Haynes. when Singer tried to tell him that it was just approximate. Well, 8 inches is pretty precise-ish, if you ask me, in my opinion. He established he's done 10 to 15 law enforcement investigations. And Haynes did admit that he made $4,000 so far off this case when Singer asked him. And side note, that's not really that much money when you figure how much that equipment must cost and also the time and everything. I thought it would be more, to be honest. Singer then asked if he was charging for court time, and the answer was no. The court aspect is fairly new to us. Next question from Singer was, anomalies can be caused by all sorts of things, correct? Answer was yes. Now we got Misik coming in. Misik cross-examines Haynes, and one of his questions was, could you tell when the soil in the 6 feet anomaly was removed? Answer, no. Misik closes with, quote, that's all I need, Your Honor. Another, smaller anomaly was found. Once it was assessed, it was decided it was most likely caused by mature tree roots. That explains, because I remember on the search day seeing them sifting and searching in the avocado grove too, and I'd wondered what was there. Now we know. Haynes was excused at 1:51 p.m. Judge O'Keefe apologized for another short day. Next witness will be here at 10:30 a.m. Thursday. We expect they will likely be done early tomorrow, she said, and the day ended early at 1:52 p.m. Court has been so busy, I haven't been doing tidbits, so let's do tidbits. So I noticed that I missed this detail from Monday's testimony this week, being week number 7. Remember all the Kristin connected items in Ruben's drawer of his home? Check this out. This is some pretty creepy stuff here. And it may help you see why even making these videos is a tad scary for me. This family is ruthless and despicable, and it's partly why I don't show my face often here on our channel. No joke. Not only did they track the contest through the newspaper, but they then hand-wrote the winners' names off to the side. Creepy. Let's hear from the people. We have been informed that more of Paul's rape victims will take the stand. How traumatic this must be for them. I'm so grateful they are brave enough to stand up for Kristin and themselves and stand up against Paul. I like how Michelle put it here. The rape tapes of his found in San Pedro home didn't lend much to his credibility as a decent human being. Mitch here says, Kristin's family and the people that loved her have a right to seek justice. This man has lied over and over again. He needs to come clean and let the family know exactly what happened. If possible, bring her remains home where she deserves a decent burial and resting place. Her family needs closure. And that reminds me, remember in the last video I mentioned that we hadn't heard much about the Smart family? Well, it was reported that Denise, Kristin's mom, couldn't take it and left the courtroom as the GPR evidence was being presented. When they went further down into the layers, she had to leave the courtroom. Poor lady. She knows her daughter was buried there. I'm sure she wishes they could have caught Paul earlier so they could have taken Kristin to her resting place. This must be absolutely crushing to her soul. Well, I must share the sentiment here that even the pros struggle with this stuff. Anne, who was one of the pool photographers, posted this, how she wasn't able to download. And I just want to thank Anne and Connor and all the other pool photographers, because without her, we wouldn't even have these pictures and these visual glimpses into the courtroom. We wouldn't have them at all. And I want to thank Chris Lambert for his above-par tweets and being there every day. Can you imagine the love the Smart family must have for Chris? Anyway, I digress. I have endless days and hours of downloads and uploads and other tech problems. And same as these creators as well. I hear that from creators on YouTube as well. Oh well, We all do the best that we can to get you the coverage and to spread awareness about Kristin, a young lady who mattered to many and still matters. There is a fundraiser for Chris Lambert if anybody was interested. He's a very grateful human being, and he does this without being paid. So if anyone finds it in their heart, you can find that GoFundMe online for Chris Lambert. I want to give a shout out to Joss Larkins, all the way from Australia. She's a newer subscriber, and she's another example of so many connected to Kristin in unique, empathetic ways. In her comment here, she asked me to go back to Kristin's memorial for those too far away, and she'd like another video once we clarified which memorial she was talking about, since there is more than one. I do want to go back. I want a better look now that I have seen more details in the court proceedings, and to show our love for Kristin. And when I go, I'm going to do a different route this time. I'm going to go from Paul's window in the back to around Santa Lucia Hall dorm, up the sidewalk path to Muir Hall, possibly to the front door depending on what's going on, and ultimately to her memorial, where we will leave these flowers, the flowers from all of us who care about Kristin. And she says, it would be lovely if he went back and took flowers. I felt so connected to this case from the start. It would be a lovely gesture. Currently working my way through your playlist. Have also shared the link to this playlist on The Mystery Maven, Esquire. Jess is a lawyer and has been covering Kristin's case from the legal perspective, and I would imagine she would also love what you're doing here. How sweet of her. Thank you, Joss. So, this is the little flower arrangement that I put together for her. You guys know that purple's her favorite color, and then I put some purple butterflies in it too. And I'm doing artificial because they'll last longer. I want it to be at the memorial. And then I put this little ribbon and stuff towards the bottom, and then I left that so I can stick it into the dirt. So that's what we're gonna bring to her. We have a Reddit post here from Emily, and she sounds frustrated like so many of us. She basically says, POS Paul has been holding her body hostage from her loved ones and trying to use it as leverage to get off of taking responsibility for her murder and going to jail for life like he deserves. I hate him so much. Sad face. 236 other people agreed within 12 hours. And I hate him too. I know it's not good to hate, but I can't help it with Paul. There's very few people on this earth that I feel that way about. He is definitely one of them. By the way, sorry there's no video clips in this episode. I usually dig and dig and dig, and I'll eventually find something, but not always, and I guess this just wasn't worthy for the video coverage. But at least I've got the still shots. Testimony resumes Thursday morning. And of course, as always, justice for dear sweet Kristin Smart.
Keep my head held high enough, I'll just be love and watch the smiles come.
Thanks for watching.
Bring my spirits up.
Don't forget to stop and smell the flowers.
There's some shit I like to fix, but I still know that I'm blessed.